The chilling, moonless night of May 13, 2008, started like any other for 19-year-old Brandon Swanson. A sophomore at Minnesota West Community and Technical College, he was celebrating the end of spring classes with friends. But by morning, Brandon would vanish without a trace, leaving behind a mystery that has haunted his family and baffled investigators for over a decade. This is the story of a phone call, a wrong turn, and a disappearance so perplexing it changed. Estates La W. The evening began with typical college kid fun. Brandon had been at a party, and by 1:45 a.m. on May 14th, he called his parents, Annette and Brian Swanson, for a ride home to Marshall, Minnesota. He told them he was just a few minutes away, on a gravel road near land. What should have been a simple pickup, however, turned into a desperate, hours-long search. Brandon's parents set out, flashing their headlights as they drove the rural roads, but there was no sign of their son or his car, a green Chevrolet Lumina. When they called him back, Brandon told them he could see their headlights, implying they were close, but he was still trying to navigate his way out of what he described as a ditch. He said he'd driven his car into a shallow creek or ditch, but was uninjured. The conversation continued, punctuated by Brandon's calm, almost dismissive assurance that he was fine and just needed help getting his car unstuck. For 47 agonizing minutes, Brandon remained on the phone with his father, Brian. They tried to guide him, asking him to identify landmarks, but Brandon was disoriented. He mentioned passing by an old, abandoned farmhouse and driving along a fence line. Then, suddenly, his tone changed. What had been a routine call shifted into something far more sinister. At around 2:28 a.m., Brandon's voice, now laced with alarm, uttered two chilling words, "Oh shit," and then silence. The line went dead. Annette and Brian frantically tried to call Brandon back, but there was no answer. His phone, which had been active for nearly an hour, was now off or out of range. Their immediate concern turned to terror. They called the local police, but what followed was a frustrating and heartbreaking ordeal. Due to Brandon being 19 years old, an adult, and the initial belief that he was merely stuck in a ditch, authorities in Lincoln County were slow to react. They informed the Swansons that Brandon could simply leave if he wanted to, and that they couldn't file a missing person report until he'd been gone for 24 hours. Undeterred, Brandon's parents, armed with just the information from the fragmented phone call, began their own desperate search. For hours, they scoured the area Brandon had described, but the vast, dark rural landscape yielded no clues. It wasn't until dawn that the full weight of their nightmare truly settled in. Later that morning, the Lincoln County Sheriff's Department finally began a search. But the critical delay had already set in, allowing precious time to slip away. Brandon's abandoned car, the green Lumina, was eventually found, not near Lind as he had initially believed, but nearly 25 miles away in a remote area of Yellow Medicine County, tucked away off a gravel road, headlights still on and the keys in the ignition. The car was in a ditch, precisely as Brandon had described, but the location was perplexing. This critical misdirection by Brandon himself became the first baffling piece of the puzzle. He was legally blind in one eye, and his sense of direction was not the best. This disorientation, amplified by the darkness and possibly alcohol, likely contributed to him getting lost. The discovery of the car sparked a massive, multi-agency search effort involving the Lincoln County Sheriff's Office, the Yellow Medicine County Sheriff's Office, the Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension, BCA, and countless volunteers. The terrain was incredibly challenging: dense brush, vast fields, treacherous riverbanks, and numerous sloughs and ponds. Search teams, equipped with ATVs, boats, and even a helicopter, combed every inch of the rugged landscape. Bloodhounds were brought in, and they picked up a scent trail from Brandon's car. The dogs tracked his scent for miles, leading investigators through open fields, over fences, and ultimately, to the banks of the Yellow Medicine River. Here, at the river's edge, the scent abruptly ended. This suggested one of two possibilities. Either Brandon had entered the river, or he had been picked up by someone. Divers repeatedly searched the cold, murky waters of the Yellow Medicine River. Teams meticulously dragged the riverbed, hoping to find any sign of Brandon. But despite their exhaustive efforts, nothing was ever found. No body, no clothing, no personal effects. Not even Brandon's prescription glasses, which he needed to see clearly, were found near the car or along the presumed path. His cell phone, crucial to the last moments of his communication, also vanished. The river, a silent witness, held its secrets. The Brandon Swanson case is a web of frustrating unknowns, giving rise to several theories, each with its own chilling implications. The accidental drowning/hypothermia theory. This remains the most widely accepted theory by law enforcement. The Bloodhound Trail ending at the Yellow Medicine River strongly suggests Brandon entered the water. The river, though not exceptionally wide, has strong currents and can be surprisingly deep in places. Brandon, disoriented, perhaps under the influence of alcohol, and possibly injured from his initial "oh shit" the moment, fell into the river. The cold water could have quickly led to hypothermia and drowning. His body could have been swept downstream, entangled in debris, or buried in silt, making recovery incredibly difficult. The rural nature of the area means few people would have been around to witness anything. The foul play theory. While less supported by direct evidence, the possibility of foul play cannot be entirely dismissed by the public. Brandon was lost and vulnerable in the dead of night. Could he have encountered someone with malicious intent? The sudden, "oh, shit," could be interpreted as a reaction to seeing another person or a threat. However, there's no evidence of a struggle, no discarded items, and no witnesses. The isolated nature of the area also makes it less likely for a random encounter. Law enforcement has largely discounted this theory due to the lack of corroborating evidence. The staged disappearance theory. This theory is generally dismissed by the family and authorities. There's no indication Brandon intended to disappear. He called his parents for a ride. He was talking calmly, and his car was found in a ditch, not purposefully abandoned. Furthermore, his phone and glasses, critical items, vanishing along with him, point away from a planned vanishing. The fundamental mystery remains. What caused Brandon to exclaim, "oh shit," and then vanish? Was it a fall? The realization of a dangerous animal? The sight of something truly horrifying in the darkness? The answer, like Brandon himself, has never emerged. For Annette and Brian Swanson, the disappearance of their son is a wound that never heals. Annette has publicly stated her gut feeling that something was horribly wrong from the moment the call dropped. They've lived with the constant, agonizing uncertainty for over 16 years. The initial police inaction fueled their determination to ensure no other family would suffer the same fate. Their tireless advocacy led to the passing of Brandon's Law in Minnesota in 2009. This crucial piece of legislation mandates that law enforcement agencies must immediately begin an investigation into missing person cases, regardless of the individual's age or the perceived circumstances. It eliminated the agonizing 24-hour waiting period, a direct response to the delayed response in Brandon's case. It's a bittersweet legacy, a testament to their son's life, and a measure of hope that some good could come from their profound tragedy. The BCA took over the case in 2010, and it remains an open, active investigation. They continue to follow up on every lead, no matter how small. Yet, with each passing year, the hope of finding Brandon alive dwindles, replaced by the desperate desire for answers, for closure. The case of Brandon Swanson stands as one of Minnesota's most baffling cold cases. How can a young man, speaking on the phone, simply vanish into thin air in a relatively populated state? The lack of any trace, no body, no personal items, no concrete evidence of foul play, is what makes this case so uniquely unsettling. It's a stark reminder of the fragile line between everyday life and the terrifying unknown. The darkness of that May night swallowed Brandon Swanson whole. His last words, a sudden exclamation of fear, echo in the silence he left behind. The Yellow Medicine River flows on. The rural fields remain vast and quiet, and the question endures, where is Brandon Swanson? His family still waits, still hopes, still searches for the truth that lies hidden in the shadows of that fateful night.